Hello. It's definitely not about my sex life. It's not even about this guy's sex life, although it does look like he's wrapped up in some sort of pervy gear. This is Robert Hooke, English natural philosopher. He was known as the Leonardo of England, but to Isaac Newton, he was a pain in the arse. This is, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. This is a description of him by his friend John Aubrey. And what I want to tell you about is a little bit about. He worked with a lot of the great names of science in the 17th century, but he's not very well known. This is the symbol he used in his diary for every orgasm he ever had. The feather at the other end is, he used to use a feather to make himself vomit, which apparently would make himself feel better. This is a list of Robert Hooke's skills. He was an astronomer, a microscopist, a mathematician, physicist, blah, blah, blah. These are the people he worked with. Most of the names on that list you'll probably recognize. He worked for the Royal Society. He worked there for 40 years as a curator of experiments. This isn't him because there's no portrait. And he was the first person to really push science out to the public. Here's his microscope. He wrote a book called Micrographia. This is his microscope. This was a flame that went through a bowl of water that would magnify the specimen on the microscope. This is a flea which he drew. He was an incredible draftsman, and he really opened up the microscopic world. This was a world that nobody had ever seen before, and it's hard to underestimate how shocking that some of these images were to him. This is an image he saw, these compartmentalized. He named them cells, and that's the word we use today for cells. These are beautiful diagrams, and he was comparing the natural world, which was beautiful, to... that's too slow. Robert Boyle was an Irish alchemist, but he turned to Robert Hooke to help make the air pump. Nobody else could make the air pump. Robert Boyle turned to Robert Hooke to make the air pump for him, and Boyle's experiments with air are well known. This is the Great Fire of London, St Paul's burning in the middle. Christopher Wren was given the job of fixing London, and Hooke also asked to fix London. Here's Hooke's grid fix of London. It was thrown out, but we see this pattern in Paris now, in New York, and it was a thing ahead of its time. But Christopher Wren brought Hooke in, for example, used Hooke's mathematical genius to help build St Paul's, and in this tower, Hooke put a zenith telescope. He turned St Paul's into a scientific instrument. This is the monument to the tower. The lid opens up, and it's a monument to the tower, but it's also, again, a zenith telescope. There were lenses put through the telescope. The top could open up, and the skies could be observed. Christian Huygens, the balance spring, I'd forgotten the name just 5 minutes ago. The balance spring, 15 years before Huygens patented and is well known for the balance spring, which revolutionized watchmaking and timekeeping, Hooke, 15 years before, had invented it. John Flamsteed, first astronomer royal, Robert Hooke designed and built the observatory and most of the instruments that went into it. However, he wasn't given the job of astronomer royal, which I think upset him. This is Hooke's main adversary, Isaac Newton. When Isaac Newton published Principia, which was all about the open mathematics of gravity, Hooke thought he'd been ripped off. Hooke said these were my ideas, and never really resolved the problem with Newton. Now, the problem is, all these people Hooke has been working with, but Hooke himself is not very well known. And there's a few reasons why. Lots of people say it's because he was an assistant to everybody, to Wren, to Flamsteed. Here's a list of people's comments about him in his lifetime. So I think he did himself no favors. Apparently he was quite an unpleasant, difficult man to work with, let's say. He never patented his brilliant ideas. He worked for the Royal Society for 40 years. He was always doing other people's work. He was also secretive and paranoid and kept his ideas to himself. And I think the fact that there's no portrait is a kind of interesting one. To finish on a high note, although Newton was his absolute enemy, this is a quote from Newton if I've seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. That was written about Hooke in a letter by Isaac Newton in 1676. So, he was a good guy. Bye-bye.